Okay, good afternoon, morning everybody, and welcome to this first webinar of 2018. The formula didn't change, so we still have the 10th of the month, a 30-minute webinar that starts at 10 o'clock. The agenda of the upcoming webinars, by the way, will be uploaded on the CEN-CENELEC website very soon, and an invitation, of course, is sent by mail to the beginning of each month. Now, should you be on Twitter, please be welcome to tweet with the hashtag 1010webinar whenever you want to. Now, before we start, let me please make you sure that you that you know me. I'm the webinar moderator of today. My name is Els, and I'm a project manager here at the CEN-CENELEC Management Center in Brussels. And before we start, I would like to tell you that you're all muted, so you do not have the possibility to speak, but you can enter your questions in the question and answer panel of the GoToWebinar. After the presentation, we will then look at the questions and reply them if possible. So please let me welcome the speaker of today. Her name is Andrea Gulacci, and she's the Customer Solution Manager working on the EU EFTA policy and stakeholder engagement here. So Andrea, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Els. Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. As Els already kindly introduced me, I'm Andrea Gulacci. I work here in the CEN-CENELEC Management Center. I think soon I'll be celebrating 15 years working for the European Standards Organizations. So it's a pleasure for me to introduce to you the customer-centric CEN-CENELEC Management Center and the recent transformation and changes we have gone through end of last year and beginning of this year. So a new structure, if you want, or a new organization which became operational the 1st of January this year. Now, you do know, of course, and for those of you familiar with us and with CEN-CENELEC, you know that a system analysis report carried out by an external consultancy was undertaken a few years back, which really looked at how CEN-CENELEC work on different levels. So one of the levels that was addressed and looked at was the governance level, so really in terms of our governing bodies and how that system is coherent, how it works, are there any overlaps, is there any streamlining that can be done? So that was one aspect of this report. Another aspect of the report was the hybrid service delivery model. So really, how do we deliver our work, and we make standardization basically work for the European and international level. And the third layer of this report was looking at the working and the functioning of the CEN-CENELEC Management Center. So really the central here in Brussels, for those of you who are not familiar with the acronym CCMC and CEN-CENELEC Management Center. So my presentation of today will focus on this third layer to take you a bit through who we are and how we operate here in Brussels, and who basically your contacts are, and how it will be easier and more coherent for you to get in touch on specific issues with ourselves, so with myself and colleagues here in Brussels. Now, what is this looking at, and what we had to undertake, and following, of course, the Deloitte recommendations, was really looking into a smart way of working. I mean, that is something of a buzzword, of course, for many organizations, and many organizations have undertaken this transformation, this change, and so did we. And part of the being smart was looking at people, looking at the workplace, looking at the technological means we have to carry out our jobs. The Deloitte recommendations clearly said that and identified that we are a customer service organization, so it looked at customer relationship management. They introduced a new concept for the CEN-CENELEC Management Center, which is the concept of account manager. They looked at how the organization works and how can we deliver the best service and make the customer experience the best. So they looked into adjusting the organizational structure and proposed adjustments for the organizational structures, as well as the development of the human capital. So all this is are elements that were taken into consideration, of course, the wider membership of CEN-CENELEC, looking at how can the CEN-CENELEC Management Center, so really the core here in Brussels, work smarter, and how we can address these people, workplace, and technology pillars. For those of you not familiar with the CEN-CENELEC Management Center, we are the combined secretariat of the two organizations of CEN and CENELEC. We have our seat in Brussels. We serve our membership of CEN and CENELEC. We're a membership-based association. And I think we're currently about 80 staff members operating and active here in Brussels and supporting our members and our stakeholders and at large. Now, the new CCMC structure is the one that reflects best the changes done in the people aspect. So we moved from quite a hierarchical, traditional structure to a lot more fluid and horizontal structure, where in terms of someone coming new to the organizations and coming new to standardization, to CEN and CENELEC, it will be very easy and very intuitive to identify who to get in touch with, who your contact, who your entry points should be. We have, and we structured, so the CEN-CENELEC Management Center, the CCMC structure, is now structured around 3 departments, which are strategy and governance, standardization and digital solutions, and market perspectives and innovations. So there are 3 directors in place who support our Director General, Elena Santiago. We have, of course, support departments as well. We have HR, talents and performances. We have infrastructure, which looks at finance and IT. But the core and the standardization elements and discussions we have happen in strategy, governance, standardization, digital solutions, market perspectives, and innovation. And supporting these departments, there are different entry points that are defined and stem from the Deloitte recommendations. What the Deloitte study and report identified clearly is that as a system, as CEN and CENELEC, as the CEN-CENELEC Management Center, we have 4 main customer clouds, main customer groupings, clusters. And those are our structures, our officers, our governing bodies, so the actual membership structures that we support. And that is a dedicated task that is taken care of by our Director General. We have a cluster that deals with the industry needs, so with the stakeholder needs, the industry, those who contribute and are active in our standardization work, that are contributing to the standardization work, and that is supported in the yellow bubble if you see industry. Of course, our standardization work that happens through the technical bodies, so the groups where our members contribute and discuss and ongoing standard and future standardization work, and that is covered by the cluster, the bubble members. And then, of course, our relationships with the European Commission and EFTA, our regulatory dialogues, our policy dialogues, and stakeholder engagement beyond industry, which is covered by the last yellow bubble, which you see on the screen, EU and EFTA. But I will be going a bit more in detail on the different aspects, and of course also who your point of contacts are to enter into CCMC. Now, the Director General Committee, as I mentioned, there are 3 departments that support the structure, the overall structure of CEN and CENELEC. We have our Director General, Elena Santiago Cid, and you have her email there as well, for those of you not familiar with her. I mentioned the Strategy and Governance Department, which is supported by Sarah Penny, led by Sarah Penny, Market Perspectives and Innovation, where Ashok Ganesh is the director, and Standardization and Digital Solutions, where Cinzia Misiroli is the director. Now, in terms of aspects covered and different, I'll say different files that are covered by these departments, in Market Perspectives and Innovation, we cover all the innovation-related aspects, the research projects, the involvement we have with Horizon 2020 and looking ahead to FP9, as well as all our international relationships. So the international dimensions, our projects with China, our projects with India, our projects with partner bodies, all that is covered under Market Perspectives and Innovation. So for those of you interested in any work, ongoing work linked to innovative topics, digital topics, research topics, or linked to our relationship with the membership outside the CEN-CENELEC membership. Ashok Ganesh is your entry point, so to speak, into CEN-CENELEC for any questions you might have. Standardization and digital solutions deals with our more classic standardization work, so all the technical bodies, all the technical committees are dealt with in the standardization and digital solutions part, as well as the digitalization of standardization solutions. So the transfer and the shift we're currently undertaking into making our standardization deliverables digital. So that is dealt with under the Department of CCMC Roli, and strategy and governance covers the more strategic aspects of CEN-CENELEC. We look into the legal affairs issues are covered in this department, the relationships we have with the European Commission, with EFTA, the relationships we have with those called Annex 3 organizations by Regulation 1025. For those of you not familiar with that, that means our societal and our SME stakeholders. All these are aspects that are covered under strategy and governance, which is led by Sarah Penny. So this is a bit the structuring and the clustering around the departments. Of course, all this information is reflected both in the organigram, which I showed you, as well as online. And because stemming from the Deloitte report, this idea and this suggestion to actually cluster and focus and have a customer oriented approach and make it easier for yourselves, for our customers to enter the system, we also have allocated and dedicated customer solutions managers. My colleagues, Carolina, deals with the members, so with the technical issues to deal with the current standardization work, supporting the technical boards. That is Carolina. Issues dealing with industry active in standardization and industry that wants to contribute to standardization or is already active in our standardization work is dealt with by my colleague Geert Maas. And myself, I'm covering the relationships, the regulatory and the policy relationships we have with the European Commission and EFTA, as well as the stakeholder engagement, the partners, the Annex 3 organizations, as I mentioned before. What is behind this customer solution managers? The intention is to really provide you a reference point within the organization to make it easier, and the mission and the commitment we have made ourselves is as well that if you do have a question of one of the specific topics I just showed you, it will be dealt with. You will ask the question if it's from a member's perspective, an industry perspective, or a policy perspective, and we will make sure that internally we coordinate, we identify the right colleagues to provide you a complete answer. It's also within our scope to keep an updated knowledge of the organization, services, products, and initiatives. We are a dynamic organization. We are an agile organization. Things change. I mentioned the digital impact that we have seen on both our products as well as program of work. There's a lot of ongoing changes within the organization, so we keep on top of that. We make sure that are informed and can also provide you an informed answer and a complete answer. And we also work together to develop and implement a customer-centric approach to improve your experience and satisfaction with ourselves. So make sure that we respond to your questions timely, that we make sure that we respond to your questions complete, that we alert you ahead of time if something is coming that we think is of interest to you, and where we see that there's a benefit for you to be informed on time. The customer solutions managers are also looking into investigating customer problems, is also within our mission, and part of the transformation was also this aspect of agility and making sure that we also progress, develop, and change as time passes to respond better to customer needs. So if we see that certain things need to be adapted, need to be changed, need to be maybe readdressed, it's also something that we are alerted to and we keep an eye on. We plan and organize actions and projects. We have a more streamlined project-based approach in this new organization. You'll see as well the different customer service specialists that I'll introduce to you. It will be a lot easier to make sure that you reach the full spectrum of solutions and timely delivery of solutions, of course. I mentioned customer service specialists, so these are our colleagues who work on specific sectors. We have clustered the different technical aspects, technical committees, production aspects under these five clusters at the moment. Of course, as the sectorial, the industry, the market changes, our clusters can also change and adapt. But we do have a dedicated cluster for electrotechnology and ICT work, where Geert is supporting that and supervising that. We have a dedicated cluster that looks at the manufacturing standardization work, and that is our colleague Gonçalo Ascensão. We have a dedicated cluster that looks and covers the technical work under energy and living. Catherine Vigneron is covering that. We have technical work linked to citizens and services, so the standardization of these two aspects, which is Alina Yatan, and mobility, which is looking at the wide spectrum of mobility standardization spaces under this as well, where Thierry Legrand is leading the team. So the intention and the thinking behind this and the recommendations behind this, which we implemented, were that it's in terms of customer experience, in terms of yourselves as our external customers, to be able to identify if you're active in, let's say, a sector linked to mobility, then Thierry Legrand would be your contact point, and from there we can exploit further and identify what questions you would have with regards to standardization, and the same for all the other sectors. Now, the customer service specialists look really at their sector and are in charge to address the sector needs, applying, of course, the rules and processes that we have in place, making sure that the sector and the technical standardization within the sector is progressing accordingly, is advancing. There is a higher involvement in the sector activities through this restructuring, because as we all know, moving from a very vertical approach of sectors, we now have more and more cross-reference between the sectors, and we have seen that in our standardization work as well. So by having customer service specialists covering a certain sector with a varied number of TCs, it's easier to have this centralized sectorial intelligence, as well as this one-stop shop, which I mentioned before. It is your entry point into the particular sector. So all the dedicated CCMC services for that particular sector are in one place, easy to access and to reach. For the digital production, I was mentioning that there is the transition that we have currently undergoing to move into a digitalized standardization service. Alex Beltrao has been appointed as account manager for digital production. So his role will be the full implementation of the digital production process of the European standardization deliverables, accuracy of data and systems, and he's behind these aspects of work. So for those of you active on the production, on the standardization deliverable side, Alex will be your contact. So now, of course, this is your first line of contact. There are other aspects that I mentioned, such as legal affairs. I mentioned also the financial aspects, and of course, some of you are involved in financial contracts with ourselves, with the European Commission. Of course, you can also access by going online on our websites, and I'll show you that is our first line of contact. So there are some of the overlaps, some of the colleagues I've already mentioned. So our Director General Committee, the Customer Solutions Managers, the key contacts for specific topics. Here you'll also see Patrick Mert, who is leading the Infrastructure and Finance Department, and Isabel Quintana, who is leading the Talents and Performance Department. The Customer Solutions Service Specialists, you already know them. I mentioned as well legal affairs is covered by Bardo Cettini Gerardini, who's the legal advisor. We have account managers for IT perspectives and system intelligence and communications, which is our public relations aspects, and finance by Bertrand Pigneur, and the digital transformation project, so very dedicated and very focused work of looking into digitalization is covered by René van der Kammen. So these are the first line of contact that you have. I'll try not to go back to my slides. We have also, because of the restructuring and because of this new, more dynamic and agile organization, we have also restructured our sectorial distribution and contacts, both for CEN and CENELEC, and that is something as well that you can access online, so you can also find your actual sectorial contacts, which go into more detail than the cluster I have showed you, but here you will have all the updated contacts and project managers that support your sector, and the same is valid as well for CENELEC. So I will show you those as well for the technological sectors covered by CENELEC, where you can also easily identify who is your contact person for that. The aim and really the intention behind all this is to make it easier for you, for our stakeholders, to access and be active in standardization. So we take on board feedback, we take on board questions. It's a learning exercise and process for us as well, but it's something that we feel will better answer your needs and better respond to the challenges and the questions you have, and make sure that you do have the right answer in the right time. Now, key learning points from this restructuring and from the exercise at large, why we've embarked on this transformation of the CEN-CENELEC Management Center, is because your needs come first. We are at the service of our members, we are at the service of our stakeholders. European standardization works because of you, so your needs come first, and we need to adapt and respond to those needs. It's a simplified structure. It's easier to identify where exactly the hub and the answer is for your questions. So we hope that by having that more horizontal approach to the organization, by having identified key points on the organization, it will be easier for you to pinpoint exactly who is your contact point. So there's an easier way to enter the CEN and CENELEC Management Center. More smart working. We work a lot more closely together within departments. The idea of having 3 directorates is to ensure there is a lot more synergy, there is a lot more exchange of information. So there is a smart working, which we see literally changing our way of working in the last weeks and months. The first line of contact, so let's say everything else fails and you don't know where to go, the first line of contact is there to guide you through and take your question on board and make sure it's handled by the right people in time. And of course, this more customer-oriented approach, which is something we have set out as our organizational ambition, as our mission for the years to come. Now, I see there is already one of the questions that has been raised, so I'll try to pick that question. Departments like consultants, production, and the like be still in place in the future? Yes, the consultants, if you mean specifically the consultants dealing with the financial aspect, then that of course is dealt with under the finance department. However, if you mean the consultant work to support the standardization work, or the production work to support the standardization work, now it's been restructured around the specific sectorial cluster. So within that cluster, let's say manufacturing, you will have Gonzalo dealing also, and his team being also in charge of the relationship with the consultants, being also in charge of the production aspect. So everything linked to a specific sector is now dealt with underneath that particular cluster bubble. And I see another one, which is no questions. Thank you very much, and that's always very good to hear. But please use the time as well to ask any questions if you have, or if anything has been unclear. As I mentioned before, this first line of contact, and myself, my colleagues here are here to support you, to help you, to clarify any questions you would have. It's hopefully very intuitive and very easy to access and understand who does what, but we do also know that it is a learning process, so please don't hesitate to ask us and reach out to your contacts that you have already, who can guide you through the transformation, or to the customer solution manager, who are here as well to support you in working better together with CEN-CENELEC Management Center.